Hello everyone. I hope this message finds you doing something to mark Good Friday in this very strange 2020 where we're all isolated from each other but having to reach out and meet people in new forums and new ways. And over the years that I've been doing my blog and Facebook page, many of you have said that I should get into vlogging. So this is my attempt, and my friend Jenny, who's not very well at the moment, she also said, do you do any sermons online? You should, kind of thing. So I'm kind of taking up the challenge that you've set me and hoping that I can create something that has some meaning to people that share my Christian faith, but also gives a message of hope and understanding to people of all faiths and none, really, because we are all in this together. So one of the things about this crisis that I think is really good is that it's forcing us to get on again with people that we don't necessarily agree with. In the past, that was always a good thing, you know. It was the British upper lip, you shook hands. And then with all the nonsense that's gone on in the media with politics and everything, we've become polarised and split as a nation. And the coronavirus, albeit a horrible thing to happen, when you look for the silver lining in these things, you might find that it's helping to bring us back together and for communities to be created instead of individual people again. So, Good Friday, one of the most serious days of the Christian calendar, a sad day, and we know it because we know the end of the story, that it was also a good day, but at the time it couldn't have been perceived like that. And that's what it's like for many people at the moment, that people are fearful, people are frightened for loved ones, people are detached from each other, people are scared of each other, they're scared of this unknown enemy out there. And before you go into Easter, you spend 40 days in Lent in the wilderness. And I think that's where we're all at the moment. We're all in the wilderness, scrabbling around, trying to find our way to the light from the darkness. As you know, I've lived with a rare cancer and had a bone marrow transplant. And I'm used to periods of extended isolation. A lot of people are not. And so if you're struggling with it, it's a natural, normal thing to do. Let's be creative and find different ways to reach out. But do let us know so that people can give you a ring, get in touch or anything like that. So my first point is that Jesus spent that time in the desert, fleeing from the unknown enemies, and he just stuck at it because he knew he had to, and he knew he would come out the other side. So we have that. And then when it comes to the Good Friday message, he was such an amazing fella, Jesus, and everyone thought he was the Messiah and he was come to change the world. And they couldn't believe, the disciples and those closest to him couldn't believe that this amazing geezer had now been got by the authorities and crucified. And it was a very brutal and violent act. And of course he was humiliated, rejected, sworn at, spat at, abandoned. And everyone disappeared apart from a few people who stayed at the foot of the cross. And they were really brave, you know, because witnessing suffering is not easy, and that's why we go out and clap for our NHS every Thursday, because they're at the foot of the cross day in, day out, dealing with this outbreak. And what we're told in the Bible, there was only 3 of them there, and they took a risk of being arrested themselves for loitering. And I think sometimes it's very hard to witness suffering, so don't give yourself a hard time if you're struggling to witness it. But know that it's a natural human experience to not want to see it and not want to be part of it. And it's been going on for 2,000 years, because if the Bible records it, everybody's felt it from then onwards, because that's our connection. We're all connected to the ancestors whose shoulders we stand on. So Good Friday means that the suffering is a really hard thing. Now, the next bit that's difficult is some people then get stuck at the foot of the cross and they stay there and they don't move through the rest of the story. And what we have to remember is that on Good Friday it's followed by what's called Holy Saturday. And there's a service, a tenebrae service it's called, where you gradually extinguish all the lights till you're sat in darkness, because that was the day when the world thought God was dead. Jesus had died, the saviour of the world, and they'd put him and locked him away in his tomb, and everyone was dejected and everyone had gone back to knowing that things were never going to get any better. That you know that feeling, we've all been there, done that. But what's important is that you don't get stuck there. Now, the Easter Day message is the one about hope. It gives our life meaning and hope. I experience the resurrection every time I have a spiritual experience. That's to me resurrection. It's feeling that close connect in some way, and it also means that you've got a second chance to put something right if something's gone wrong. That's another resurrection thing, is you can resurrect situations to sort through them, given all these second chances. And the other thing is we use eggs to symbolise Easter because they symbolise new life. But also, if your egg's a bit cracked, blessed are the cracked, for they let in the most light. So what we've got to do somehow is let go and let God on Good Friday and Easter Saturday, and then embrace the hope that comes on Easter Day. And there's some words that I found in a book by a woman called Nicholas Slee, and her book is called In Search of the Risen Christa. So I'd highly recommend that to people. And this is one of the little things she says, and I'll use this to just encourage thought and debate. We have heard about the man who betrayed you. Speak to us of the women who anointed you. We have heard about the man who denied you. Tell us of the woman who spoke up for you. We have heard of the man who carried your cross. Speak to us of the women who wept for you. We know about the men who deserted you. Speak to us of the women who stood by you. Isn't that a great way of looking at things? Yeah, so looking at the positive, looking at the things that haven't been seen. And we all know, as much as the world is suffering at the moment, there are a lot of helpers. And what we need to do is spot these helpers and encourage them and support them and do what we can to ensure that we build a safety net behind everybody to build up society in the way it is. And we can do that by looking at some of the positives, even in a very negative situation. When about 30 years ago, I had a bad experience on a Maundy Thursday. I'd been to the Maundy Thursday, which is the liturgy of the Last Supper, and on my way home, something horrible happened, and it affected me for a long, long time. And the thing is, I always then associated it with Maundy Thursday. But actually, Maundy Thursday moves, doesn't it? So I had the day date anniversary and the spiritual date. These days, it really doesn't bother me at all now. But I think for a number of years, I was caught at the foot of the cross. And then what happened was a good friend of mine gave me this poem. And I just want to read it to you. And then I'm going to finish with a traditional Good Friday song. So this poem comes from a church in Canada, but we don't know who wrote it, and it's called The Crucified Woman. Oh God, through the image of a woman crucified on a cross, I understand at last, for over half my life, I've been ashamed of the scars I bear. These scars tell an ugly story, a common story, about a girl who is the victim when a man acts out his desires. In the warmth, peace and sunlight of your presence, I was able to uncurl the tightly clenched fists for the first time. I felt your suffering presence with me in that event. I have known you as a vulnerable baby, as a brother, and as a father. Now I know you as a woman. You were there with me as the violated girl, caught in helpless suffering. The chains of shame and fear no longer bind my heart and my body. A slow fire of compassion and forgiveness is kindled. My tears now fall for man as well as woman. You, God, can make out our violated bodies vessels of love and comfort. To such a desperate man, I am honoured to carry this wounded power within my body and soul. You were not ashamed of your wounds. You showed them to Thomas as marks of your ordeal and death. I will no longer be ashamed of mine. I will bear them gracefully. They tell a resurrection story. I hope that brought you some comfort and stirs some thoughts as well. And I'm going to finish with an unusual setting of the traditional Good Friday song, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. And this is specially dedicated to my good friend Wendy, who taught me to find love in the Easter story again, and to everyone who's part of my circle who keeps me going in these days. You're amazing people, and I love you to bits. And please excuse the fact that I don't have as much breath in my lungs these days, with my scarred lungs, as I might do, but I think it would be nice to sing this because I found the hymn is a beautiful hymn that I've always loved, especially the last verse, which says, demands my soul, my life, my all. I've always loved it. But I've found that it's set to a new tune that I think you'll recognise and like. So I hope you enjoy this. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I can but lose, and pour content on all my pride. Forbid it, Lord, that I should boast, save in the death of Christ my God. All the vain things that charm me most ties them to his blood. See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingling down. Did such love and sorrow meet? Or thorns compose so rich a crown? Were the whole realm of nature mine, that was an offering far too small. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all, demands my soul, my life, my all. I hope you like that. I hope you have a blessed Good Friday, and that you move to be able to let go of anything that holds you back into the hope of the resurrection on Sunday. God bless.